If you only have 10 minutes to work on your hip mobility, here's what I'd recommend that you do. All you're gonna need for this really easy and simple but highly effective mobility routine is a foam roller, a pillow, and later a chair. Now this is gonna work for all different levels of people with different mobility restrictions, but it's especially helpful for beginners, people that feel like they have locked up hips, backs, and shoulders. For the first exercise, all we're gonna need is a foam roller. We're gonna start by opening up the front side of our hips, opening up the hip flexors, and that's gonna allow us to have better mobility and just more range for the other exercises and stretches. So you're gonna take this foam roller, lay on your back, and you're gonna slide it underneath your butt, around the lowest level of your pelvis or your sacrum area. Now, hugging the back of this leg, you want to just pull it back slightly, not too far to where you feel a pinch or any sort of restriction in the front of the hip, just a little bit. And then you should feel a stretch on this down leg's hip flexor. If you want to increase the stretch, you can bring the roller up a little higher. If you want to decrease the stretch or you have less mobility, you can put it lower. But once you find a nice little stretch, it doesn't have to be intense, just about a 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. I want you to feel the foot contacts of your heel, first metatarsal head, and fifth metatarsal head right there. And I want you to just gently push them into the ground. You're gonna feel your glute and a little bit of your hamstring muscle activate, but still you'll have that stretch in the front of the hip. I want you to just sit here, create that mind-muscle connection between your glute and the foot pressure going into the floor. And I want you to hold this for about 45 to 60 slow seconds as you breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. And you're gonna flip and you're gonna do the other side. Okay, now what we're gonna do is progress to a deeper end range of what we call hip extension, or getting the legs underneath us. This is also gonna work on the end range ability of the glutes and the hamstrings to control that range. So we're gonna take that roller, we're gonna put it underneath our upper hamstrings, just below our butt, and lay back down like this. And then you're just gonna hug the back of the knee like so, and you're gonna push down into that roller, and you're gonna feel your hamstring and a little bit of your glute activate, and you're just gonna breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth for about 30 seconds each side here, and then you're gonna switch again over to here. The only thing to look out for here is going too high and feeling your low back engage and your ribs arch. Don't do that. Just feel like most of your low back is still flat on the ground. The push is just raising the lowest part of your spine and some of your pelvis off of the ground. For the second exercise, we're gonna focus on a type of hip mobility that a lot of people overlook. So when people think about hip mobility, they oftentimes think about what's going on within here. But there is slight movement that occurs within this bone as it can move in and out like this. This is an important aspect that a lot of people don't consider. Now, the movement here isn't much. So we're gonna work on mobilizing this a little bit, but we have to be able to put pressure on the foam roller in a specific spot. So we wanna keep the pressure through this part of our top pelvis bone right here. You can palpate that and feel on the side of your abdomen, the lower portion right there. That's where you wanna keep the pressure the entire time. So we're gonna be riding along this ridge. So you wanna place the pressure exactly like this right here. As we roll over it and back, we're gonna be working on creating that change of the shape of this bone. So start in this position, slid down on your hip a lot, and then come down until you find the pressure right on that bone right there. It shouldn't be too uncomfortable, but it's gonna feel kind of weird. And in some ways, potentially a little bit good. And then you wanna bring this knee up to around 90 degrees of bend relative to your hip, so like a right angle right here. And then you wanna bend the knee a little bit. You're gonna stack the other foot just like this. So that way your foot arches are kind of in contact with each other a little bit. Now, keeping pressure on that top pelvis bone the entire time, all you're gonna do is just roll back a little bit, keeping this outside thigh always flat on the ground. And then you're gonna roll over very slowly as you exhale. As you inhale, you're gonna open up just a little bit, keeping pressure on that portion of your top pelvis bone. As you exhale, you're gonna roll forward just a little bit. It's gonna feel like pressure is just going along the ridge of that top pelvis bone. That's what we're looking for. The range of motion is not too intense. You're rotating as one unit with your upper body and that top knee. The advanced progression of this, and this is only if you feel like you're able to keep that bottom thigh down and that pressure in that top pelvis bone, is to take a literal step. So you want to open up a little bit And then you want to exhale and literally step over a little bit like this. You're going to open up a little bit, and then you're going to literally cross that leg over. But it's going to be a nice, slow, steady movement, never losing pressure of the outside thigh or on that top pelvis bone. You're going to do one of these variations for about 20 total slow rolls. Now, if you do this routine correctly and consistently every day, you should start to see some really good things happen. But if you want a more comprehensive, total body approach to hip mobility, then I would strongly recommend you check out my beginner body restoration program. Here's why. If your pelvis is locked into a given position, let's say it's forward like this, then working out hip mobility can be helpful to help improve the position of the pelvis. But look at what that did to the rib cage. Now the rib cage is in a certain position. Working on hip mobility in isolation is not going to address the rib cage's ability to work with the hips. So if the rib cage is always biased towards this position, good luck getting your pelvis to actually permanently get into a better position and access that better mobility. So what I'm trying to say is genuine improvements in hip mobility are a total body approach. And that's what the beginner body restoration program is really good at addressing. And that's not even to mention asymmetries. For example, if your pelvis is asymmetrical in any given way, that's of course going to influence certain hip mobility restrictions on one or both sides. So my beginner body restoration program is designed to address your own individual asymmetries because there are some tests built within it. If you want to learn more, check out the link down below in the description. For this next exercise, just take the foam roller and put it underneath one of your knees. What we're going to work on is the ability to dynamically shift in and out of our hips, improve our hip internal and external rotation, as we would call it. So we're going to get in an all fours position like this, hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And we don't want to be too arched or too rounded in our low back. We should be nice and neutral. And we're going to shift most of our body weight over to the knee that is on the foam roller. And we're going to have our hip probably a little bit outside of the knee. That's okay. And just keeping everything neutral, chin a little bit up. We're just going to dip that knee down, the passive knee, the off knee, just a couple of inches, keeping most of our body weight on the knee that's on the roller. And we're going to feel our little inner thigh adductor muscle on the side of the knee that is on the roller as we get to that end range. Maybe a little stretch in the back of the hip too, of the knee that's on the roller. That would be great. And then we're going to go up just a couple of inches above the knee that is on the roller. And then we're going to go back down again, making this a nice, slow, dynamic process. Again, not overdoing it. You want to move through your hips, not your spine. So the range of motion is going to be less than you think it needs to be. But that's genuine hip mobility, not just low back mobility. So this is going to be nice and relaxed. And you're going to do about 15 to 20 shifts per side. For the last one on the ground, we're going to be in this supported position on a chair where we have a perfect 90-degree angle, both our knees and our hips. The foam roller is in between our upper thighs right here. So that way our knees can stay in line with our feet and our hips. Pillow underneath our head for support and relaxation, but our chin still needs to be pointed relatively at the ceiling. So all we're going to do is feel our heels on that chair, and we're going to drag down a little bit. We're going to feel our low back still flat on the ground, but our pelvis and tailbone is slightly off of the ground. We're going to feel our hamstrings engage a little bit, back of the thighs, as we pull up a little bit and push our low back into the ground. That is going to engage them about 4, maybe 5 out of 10. And then we're going to just hold this position for the first progression. All you want to do is sit here, breathe in through your nose fully, but silently out through your mouth. Exhale all the air out. At the end of the exhale, hold a little bit of that side ab tension as you inhale through your nose, again, fully but silently. You should not feel your neck engage. If you're feeling any issues with your neck, you can play around with the position of the pillow, or you can just take it out and keep your chin tilted back if you want. Now, as the next progression, give that ball just a little squeeze, maybe a 3 out of 10, not any more than that. Just a little 3 out of 10 squeeze after you feel like everything else is in place first. You got your hamstrings involved, you got your abs with the breathing, and then you can give that a little squeeze. So a full breath looks like this. And then at the end of that inhale, I'll release my ab tension, go again. And for the last one, we're gonna connect our hips mobility to the feet and the foot's ability to change shape, because our hip mobility is only as good as our foot's ability to allow it to be expressed. So we're gonna be in this split stance position right here. Heels are actually in line with each other, but this foot is turned out 90 degrees relative to this foot, which is straight ahead. Now, you don't have to use this, but an optional thing you could do is grab a little paper towel, and you can fold it like this, and then over again, and then over again like so. So it's about yay thick, and you wanna slide it underneath your first metatarsal head or base of the big toe right here. This is gonna give you a nice reference. You could even make it a little bit thicker if you need more reference right there. Now, on this front leg, you're gonna feel your heel, base of the big toe, and base of the little toe. You're never going to lose those foot contacts throughout this entire thing. Now, you're gonna start with your leg locked out and your pelvis facing that straight ahead side. And then you're gonna unlock your knee as you simultaneously turn your pelvis away from that side and push your knee over your toe, your big toe in particular. You're gonna feel your foot arch kind of go down to the floor a little bit, and you're gonna feel that paper towel kind of be squished a little bit too, but don't lose your heel. And then you're going to straighten the knee out, square up your hips again to the relative extent that you're capable of. Unlock the knee, start to push that knee over the toe as you lean forward like this, stopping at the point where if you were to go any further, you'd feel a restriction in the front of your ankle, or your heel would want to come off of the ground. You always have to keep your heel grounded. I'd say of the body weight that's on this leg, which most of it is, about 50% of my weight is always in that heel. And you can play around with your stance, whatever is comfortable for you, but I would say you want to do about 2 sets of 15 slow reps per side. And the biggest mistake to look out for is leaning too much here and losing the heel. So you want to make sure that you're staying tall and upright as you're going forward like this, rather than doing something like that. I'd recommend doing this whole thing in order of the exercises presented to you at least once every single day. If you do it twice, that could be potentially even better, but it shouldn't take you too long. Once you get it under your belt, it'd definitely be 10 minutes or less, potentially even 6 to 7. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more stuff like this, more mobility routines, please let me know.